Welcome back to America Right Now. Pre- and post-election legal maneuvers are nothing new in the world of politics. Democrats regularly engage in such tactics to ensure the environment is ripe for their advantage. Republicans could do the same thing, but oftentimes they don't. Has it been a blind spot for them? In his new column on Newsmax.com titled GOP Desperately Needs Lawyers Well-Versed in Politics, our next guest says it's essential that Republicans hire and retain election lawyers possessing the legal and strategic experience to counter the Democrats. And so we welcome Newsmax.com insider and host of Advancing the Agenda podcast, Michael Abramson. Michael, thank you for being here. And I'm so glad you wrote this piece because a lot of folks coming out of 2020, myself included, were asking the very legitimate question why the lawsuits challenging the ballot counting procedures weren't brought ahead of time in many places, which Republicans had the ability to do. Talk to us about this piece and why you think this has kind of been a strategic blind spot for the GOP.
Yeah, very important for the GOP to be having election lawyering done before the election. What we found out in 2020 was that cases brought after an elections are very hard to overturn the election. Judges don't want to do it, and that's why we need the lawyering done beforehand. Unfortunately, when we look at the 2020 election, a lot of those cases were not brought beforehand, or the Republicans lost. For example, the consent decree in Georgia, which was in March 2020, was not challenged until after the election. It was done so by a private individual. The $400 million donated by Mark Zuckerberg and his wife Priscilla Chan was not challenged.
Yeah.
And then you have issues such as voter rolls, which were not updated closely to the election, and you had a lot of people who should not have been on those rolls.
Yeah, Michael, you're absolutely right. The election law, is very specific, and as you point out, Democrats, you point out in the piece, Democrats really have a superior legal infrastructure. In the remaining moments that I have with you here, what needs to happen here in order to achieve an effective defense so that policy can get better, or so that, if there is fraud or mismanagement of an election, that is brought to light?
I would say two things. First of all, we need to have a careful look at the 2020 legal team and structure, find out what happened and if we need to replace people or look at things differently. Secondly, we need to make sure that we retain the best lawyers possible. And that could come with cost, but it's just a cost that has to be made.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else? If you're talking to the GOP, just give me one more thing that the RNC should be doing right now on this.
I think communication between all the lawyers. A lot of times we see things on a state and local level that the national level doesn't know. And it's good to pass that on to another layer of lawyers to make sure that the correct legal decision is being made.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not just a top-down thing, it's a bottom-up thing as well. Again, be sure to check out Michael's latest column up on Newsmax.com. Michael Abramson, thank you so much for being here. Great piece.
Thank you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Still to come, took 15 rounds of voting to elect Kevin McCarthy as Speaker, but how does one get the honor to take hold of that